Obviously, I'm a Yankees fan, so I'd love to see him.
It's almost like legacy of like the NFL versus.
But I definitely think that Baker could be a really good player for the Panthers moving forward.
Did I say Oreos?
There's a lot of questions I have about Mahomes. Looks like a kid playing Madden.
Turning point in the game is the 13-second drive.
They play very hard, even though they're terrible.
He's a good pick. You for sure. He's going to be a good player, but I can't argue against the Jamar Chase pick.
They made moves saying we're going to win this year, at least get into the playoffs.
I'm going with my guy, Corey Seager. So glad.
What's good, y'all? My name is Austin Drummond, and I play rugby for the University of Notre Dame. And you're listening to the Outsider's Opinion with Austin and Kevin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NHL Opinions of the Week. Today, we're going to be going over the 5 most disappointing teams this season. I'm joined by the man with a helmet, but no visor, Austin.
Interesting. I did have to wear, I guess I wasn't a visor when I played. It was a cage, so I guess you're partially right on that intro.
I've just been hearing about there are less players without visors because I know Jamie Benn is a player that doesn't wear. Am I saying visor wrong?
No,
he doesn't
right.
have.
Yeah. It's a visor, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
but apparently when younger people started, they just forced them to wear helmets, so they naturally declined.
Jamie Benn is grandfathered in, is how they call it, and that's how it works in the NHL. And he's one of the few left that does not have to wear a visor. But you're right. But there's been some disappointing teams this year, some very surprising teams. But we've already touched on those surprising teams, so let's delve into the disappointing teams. So you want to start with your 5?
Yes, my 5 is the Nashville Predators. They're out of the playoff race. I thought they would be in the playoff race, or at least in the mix. Like, I didn't expect them to be like best in the West or best in the Central. But I just thought they would be close, and currently they are 5th. So kind of where I thought, but they are, I believe, I can't remember how many games back, but it seems like they're mostly out of the playoff race at this point.
They're not completely out of it, but they're 5 points back of a playoff spot. But the problem is that they're struggling to place wins together. They're not on my list, but they are definitely a team that is disappointing this year. My 5th most disappointing team this year is the St. Louis Blues, a team that is below them by 10 points. They're 10 points lower than Nashville after winning a playoff round last year against the Wild. And I really thought that the Blues would be much better than they have been, and they obviously traded 2 of their best players in Tarasenko and Ryan O'Reilly, and now they're struggling to get any points together, and they're definitely a disappointment.
Yeah, that's a good pick. So who's your number 4?
My number 4 is the Washington Capitals, a team that with Ovechkin you would think could be a contender. Nope, they traded one of their better defensemen to Boston, and Boston now has 39 more points. 39.
Wow.
It is a large gap between those teams, and Dmitry Orlov has played well with Boston, and Boston has continued to win games. They're still on pace to beat the record for the most wins in the season with 62. They're still on that pace with 12 games left for them. They have 54 wins. They need to reach 62. They'd have to go 8-4, which is more than likely considering how they've been playing so far this year. But we'll see if that happens with Washington, a team that just can't get it done in a tough Eastern Conference, and they've definitely been a disappointment as well.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good pick. My number 4 is the Calgary Flames. To me, the Flames, I know they traded Kachuk, but they signed Kadri in the offseason, and they are 5th in their Pacific Division right now. I know they're fighting for a playoff spot, but I thought they won the division last year.
Yeah, and they also in that trade they traded for Jonathan Huberdeau, who had so many points last year, and the most assists by a winger since forever ago. Maybe the most assists by a winger ever. I can't remember the stat exactly, but Huberdeau's been someone who was supposed to come in and be a beacon of hope for this offense, and that's just not been the case. And them not to be even the playoff picture is a crazy thing to see.
Yeah, so that's why they're fourth on my. Like, they still have some nice players, but given what they did last year, this season, disappointing.
Who's your number 3?
My number 3 is the Florida Panthers. So they were in the Kachuk trade. They got Kachuk. And they're fourth right now. I know the Bruins are having a fantastic season. We've talked about that, and it's great. They have 12 more wins than the Maple Leafs. But then you get to the Panthers. Maple Leafs are 2. They're at 42 wins, and the Panthers are at 36. And they're also below the Lightning. And they're at 79 points versus the 93 points. Which, I believe they were the number 1 team last year in the East, correct?
Yeah, we will get to Florida. Florida is not yet mentioned. My number 3 is the Ottawa Senators, another team that I think both of us had in the playoffs, right?
That sounds about right. I get Ottawa confused with Arizona for some reason.
Yeah, but I
Ottawa
think we both
has
had Ottawa. They have
Matt Murray,
Brady used
correct?
to.
The
Matt
real.
Murray's now on Toronto.
Okay.
But
Gotcha.
they have Claude Giroux, they have Brady Tkachuk, they have a lot of good players, and them being 73 points below Washington, I expected a lot more from them, and seeing them where they are is very disappointing for me, who kind of expected more from them.
Yeah, and this is a team I expect a lot from. I'm gonna steal 2 from you, or is it my turn?
I'm 2, so it's my turn. But number 2 for me is Calgary, a team that won their division, not even in a wild card spot yet. Made some good moves, and I already touched on it. You already touched on it. They're just a very disappointing team.
Yeah. Okay. So my number 2 is the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think as long as we've been doing this podcast, I've been a believer in the Columbus Blue Jackets, and they just constantly disappoint me. I'm glad I'm not a fan of this team because they are dead last in the Metropolitan Division. They're below the Flyers and the Capitals.
Well, they're the last team in the East, Kevin. They're not even just the last in the division. They're last in the East. They are also the worst team in the league. So,
oh my goodness.
But I guess they're tanking for one of the best prospects we've seen in a very long time, the Connor Bedard. They are the
smart
leaders to get that. But still, very disappointing team. They would have probably been 6th on my list, so not yet mentioned. But who's your number 1?
My number 1 is, they were year 5. It's the St. Louis Blues. They had Tarasenko. They won a playoff series, like you mentioned. And then they trade everyone. They also have Christian Kyrou, correct?
No,
or is it
Jordan?
Jordan. Is it Jordan Kyrou? Christian Kyrou, I think. There's a Kyrou with the stars.
It's Jordan Kyrou. I was right.
Okay. I was thinking of the Kyrou with the stars. Okay. Jordan Kyrou, who seems like a good player. And I was like, man, this is going to be a really good team. No, they're terrible. The most notable thing about them right now is Bennington tried to fight Fleury during a game where he let in 4 goals.
Keep some he was trying to keep some relevance. And while Fleury hasn't been the greatest this year, he's still on a team that is now tied for Dallas at the top of that division. Dallas still is the tiebreaker. Don't worry.
Oh yeah, but yeah, Bennington. I'm pretty sure didn't he let in, or was it Fleury that let in 4 goals?
No, it was probably Bennington, considering how bad the team has been this year, and I'm not surprised that you have them at number 1 at most disappointing. Mine, I think, was your number 3. I had the Florida Panthers, a team that led the entire league in points, President's Trophy winners, and I do plan on doing is winning the President's Trophy a bad thing? Because the team hasn't won the President's Trophy, aka best record in the league, and won a championship in a long time. We'll touch on that in the future.
Okay.
I'm not necessarily worried about that as a Bruins fan, but we'll touch on that soon. But for going to Florida, they made some good moves, but they traded away Mackenzie Weegar also in that trade to Calgary. Calgary just, I don't understand how they're that bad. And then Florida, they made a good moves. They have good goaltending with Spencer Knight, and I was like, wow, this team's going to be really good. They're going to contend. But that just hasn't been true. And while they still are in a playoff spot, the second wild card in the East, they're 1 point ahead of Pittsburgh with worse points percentage. So Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh is 1 point behind them, but they played one less game. So Pittsburgh, if they play one more game, could win or tie, or win or lose in overtime / shootout and be tied or move ahead of them with a win. So the Panthers don't have a secure playoff spot, and I would have thought by now they would be entrenched in the playoff conversation.
Yeah, I agree. And so we had very similar teams, but just different rankings. Little disappointing episode, but sometimes you gotta have those because then you can't have excitement or
Yeah, if there's no
surprises.
there can't be any surprise. If there's a lot of disappointing teams, that means there has to be a lot of surprising teams. So that's how it works out. And while these teams may not having the best season, maybe next year. You can always say maybe
Yes,
next year.
maybe next year. It's great. There's always hope. And
Yep.
you will just have to hope for our next episode, which should be coming out soon. And thank you for listening, and be on the lookout for more from Outsiders Opinions.